There's a world where legends race across city skylines, romance blossoms in glittering ballrooms, and there's magic around every corner. It's a world known to many as Great Britain. You've seen the action on screen. Now visit the real star of the show. Visit Great Britain. To discover more, go to tripadvisor.com/Great Britain.
For those who know that questioning everything includes questioning this show's existence. The Last Show with David Cooper.
If you've ever Googled yourself and you didn't quite like what you found, maybe personal information on the internet that you wish wasn't there, your address, your phone number, maybe images of you, historically, Google wouldn't really take that stuff down unless you did some wacky legal stuff to them. But now it seems like they are allowing users to take off personal information from search results. Let's talk about this here with Carmi Levy, a tech analyst. It is time for Technology Time. Carmi, welcome in.
Good to be with you. Thanks so much for having me, David.
I kind of buried the lead. This also goes for like explicit pictures, which I think, average people, due to an unfortunate set of circumstances like revenge, pornography, this kind of thing, can find awful stuff on the internet publicly available, and a Google who has historically, in some cases, not taken that stuff down. It looks like they're doing a 180 on this one.
Yeah, finally. Non-consensual explicit images are rampant online. And in many cases, the victims did not intend for them to be online. They were posted by someone, perhaps a vengeful ex or someone else, a cyber criminal. And so they find when you go searching for your name, suddenly this thing pops up and you realize it's incredibly damaging. And so they're building it into this. The feature is called Results About You. And whenever you search for an image, if you feel that it qualifies as that, you can have Google, you can ask them to remove it from their index so that when someone searches, it will not show up in a Google search. Now, the fine sort of line here is that the original image will still be online. It's just that Google will not find it when you search for it. That's the key difference. You still have to go to the original website, the original platform to have it removed, but at least it's a lot harder for somebody to find. It does a lot more to protect you from ensuring that other people will not see this content.
There was an irony, a perverse irony that existed. In the US, at least, there's something called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And it's basically so like musicians can, if my song ends up on YouTube, I can ask YouTube to take it down because it's my copyrighted creative work. So if I was an adult entertainer, let's say I had an OnlyFans or something, and I posted explicit photos of myself, that's a copyrightable creative work. So if I was a professional adult entertainer, I could say, hey, Google, take down these copyrighted images, and Google would do it. But if I was just like a private person whose photos ended up on the internet, it would be so difficult to take down. To me, that's so wild that someone who does it professionally, who I guess wouldn't care if the world saw it, they could take it down, but me as a private person couldn't before. At least now there's a little bit of fairness there.
Yeah, it shows just how much the internet has evolved since these original tools, since the DMCA, which I believe was enacted something like 20 years ago, first became a thing. And some non-consensual imagery has become epidemic online. And so, I think Google is recognizing that a lot of the tools that are used to support DMCA takedown requests can also be redeployed, so to speak, for this kind of activity as well. And so it's just another layer of protection. They're also going to include a feature that when you tag something, so you see a photo, it's non-consensual, it's explicit, you click on the three dots, you flag it to remove it, and then it will then, in its index, if someone else searches for it, or there are other matches, if similar imagery shows up in Google's index, you'll be notified. And so there's automation then that also protects you going forward. It's not just that specific image takedown, it's others. years. And so I think it recognizes that it's the internet's a very dangerous place. Search is a very powerful way to victimize other people. And Google is finally stepping up and ensuring that its platform, at the very least, can't be weaponized. Of course, it means that as a victim, you have to take that step. If you don't initiate that takedown request in Google's interface, nothing happens. And so it's not going to happen automatically. There's still some homework for victims to do, but at least now they have tools to do that.
Let's look at another form of abuse on the internet that I never even thought was possible. It's one of those scary things, but smartwatches and doorbell cams, basically home technology and smart biometric technology on your body, that stuff can use to track people. And it can be used by bad actors to track people as well. And there's a charity that just put out a report saying that like smartwatches and I believe, doorbell cams are being used to stalk people. And it's kind of troubling stuff.
Yeah, who knew? So yeah, smartwatches, smart rings, smart doorbells, all sorts of smart home appliances, thermostats. They're being used, and this organization is called Refuge. It's a British charity. They're being used to stalk, surveil, and control victims. And the numbers are actually scary. They show a 62% rise in reports of this kind of activity between 2024 and 2025. And so the worry here is that smart devices are becoming far more pervasive. So, your old doorbell dies, you put on a Ring doorbell. Your old thermostat dies, of course you're getting a smart thermostat. And so as these things are connectable, they connect to the cloud, they use apps to remotely set settings. It allows a stalker, it allows an abusive member of an intimate relationship to use this technology against the other, against the victim. And so, it used to be you would, crank up the heat in the house and make them uncomfortable. Now it's, with a smart lock, you can actually lock a victim into a home against their will. You can use location sharing on a smart watch or a smartphone or a smart ring to know where your victim is and target them there. And these kinds of abuses, technologically enabled, you might think, well, why don't they just take the smartwatch off? Well, when you're being victimized in an intimate partner relationship, you may not have the option to do so.
Or you may not know. Like you may not know someone is using that watch or ring to track you.
That's precisely it. And so you may not always, in some cases, it's on different accounts or it's on common accounts. The notifications aren't turned on. So there are all sorts of ways for this to be, my wife and I use location sharing. I'm a cyclist and things can happen to me. So obviously she's aware of my location, but that is consensual. That's, I trust her, she trusts me. And, we're certainly not in an abusive relationship. However, you can imagine how that technology in the context of an abusive relationship could be used in all sorts of frightening ways. And just by the numbers, it's bad and it's getting worse. And it's something to keep your eyes open. And it's something to be aware of.
What do smart rings even do? I'm like, why would I even want one? Does it like measure my heart rate or something?
Yeah, they're almost like, in many cases, they're used as wellness. So the same thing that a smart watch would do. It'll track your blood pressure. It'll track your temperature. It'll track your fertility, your cycle. And of course, it will share that wirelessly with an app. And so it's kind of like a smartwatch without a screen. A lot of people don't like having that obvious thing on their wrist, but maybe as a ring that kind of looks like a little band, that's a little less intrusive.
Will you marry me, Google? Yes, I will. I'll sell you.
Technologically yours forever.
Sierra has all the best active and outdoor brands you need. From athletic stuff, like a full court pickup game, swish, to athletic-ish stuff, like a half-mile stroll. Get those steps in. And for morning hikes up the mountain trail, good pace. To nighttime ghost stories from the camping chair. What a twist. Whatever level of active, Sierra loves it all. Head to Sierra or Sierra.com for the brands you want at the prices that let you do it all. From athletic to athletic-ish, Sierra's got it.
I was recently in one of those autonomous taxis, I guess, Waymos, a rideshare, I suppose. I was visiting San Francisco. It was super weird to watch the steering wheel of this car that drives itself take me from point A to point B on busy city streets. The tech seems amazing on its face. I am joined by Carmi Levy. It's time for Technology Time is what we do here every week. But there's a new report. Waymo has said that when these vehicles get confused, intervention happens from workers sitting at their computer remotely. Why, how autonomous are these things? That's what we're going to discuss here. Welcome in, Carmi Levy.
Good to be with you. Yeah, this is a fun one, right? Because, oftentimes you'll see a demo of a technology and you'll wonder, is somebody pulling the strings behind the scenes? Is this really autonomous? Is this really the technology? Or is it all just, is it a puppet show? And we just don't see the humans behind the scenes. And so there was a congressional hearing in Washington recently, and Waymo's chief safety officer was being grilled by a bunch of government officials. And they were concerned about the use of Chinese-made vehicles and their reliance on overseas workers. So the questions were, where does your technology come from? And is it always just the technology, or are there humans behind it? And so the chief safety officer admitted, his name is Mauricio Pena, he admitted that when the vehicles get confused, like they don't know which lane to take, they don't know which way to turn, if their autonomous guidance doesn't know what to do next, they can do basically like what's a phone a friend. They can call out to a call center.
There's a few things there, Carmi.
Yeah.
One, it doesn't say how confused these things get and how often. What if it's all the time?
There was no data on that at all, and the Congress people did not press on that. In other words, is it 1% of the time, or is it 85% of the time? We just don't know.
And then I just want to add the word allegedly, because Waymo's owned by Google or Alphabet, and they've got deep pockets.
Sued,
Everything's allegedly. Don't sue us. The second thing is, why did it take a congressional hearing for them to admit to this? Why wasn't this known? Like, why aren't customers being told this? Why aren't articles about how the technology works including this? I've read about the tech at length. I've never seen this. It took a congressional hearing. But there's all sorts of wild questions here. For example, someone in a data center or an office in the Philippines looking at a bunch of computer screens helping a Waymo figure out how to drive on the U.S. street. That person doesn't have a driver's license for the state where it's happening. So the cars in California, you've got some person in a foreign country who has no driver's license to drive there, making decisions that could literally kill people. Cars are dangerous. It's a wild thing to be uncovered.
It absolutely is. And Waymo did say, that their call center employees do have driver's licenses. Didn't say what jurisdiction it is in, certainly not the ones where the calls are originating from. They did say that they have call centers both in the U.S. and abroad, but didn't specify which countries. But you're absolutely right. They don't have that locality, that understanding of the local, the roads, the laws that apply on those roads, and they have access to the in-vehicle camera and sensor information. So they can actually see, oh, you're in this lane, you need to be over there. So you might want to turn right. And then they tell the automation, and the automation does it. The company says the call center employees do not have the ability to directly take over control of the vehicle. They can't steer it, they can't accelerate, they can't brake. But it is kind of jarring that this capability is there, this remote capability, and they aren't being fully transparent about what that means, what that looks like, how often it's being used, as well as the qualifications of those individuals who are doing this remote controlling. That to me is something you probably want to know before you get into one of these vehicles as a passenger.
I don't want to get sued, so I'm going to talk about a fictitious company called Shmaymo. Let's go back in time. 11 years ago, 2015, something called Dieselgate, or the Volkswagen emissions scandal. Basically, Volkswagen had these diesel, I think they were Golfs, but a bunch of other cars as well.
TDI.
The TDIs. And they were running so much better than any other diesel vehicle. They had such low emissions, and because they had low emissions, the engines were faster. It was like Volkswagen cracked the Da Vinci Code of diesel, and no one else could do it. And that's kind of how it feels with Waymo right now. Like Uber, Lyft, none of these other providers have autonomous vehicles at the level of Waymo. So they kind of are reminding me of Volkswagen with their diesel engines being so beyond the class of everyone else. But behind the scenes, what was Volkswagen doing? Well, they basically made their cars go into an emissions test mode secretly, so that when the government tested the cars did not function properly. They functioned in a reduced emissions mode. But when they were on roads, they were spewing out gas in order to run so great. I'm not accusing Waymo of anything, but maybe Shmaymo has this amazing tech, but the cars are actually mostly driven by workers in data centers. There's a thought for you.
Yeah, and this is why you need better transparency into what's going on behind the scenes, how the technology works, what that back end looks like. This is why you need better regulation so that that governments are able to hold these companies to account and make sure that if they promise a certain level of performance and autonomy and safety, that they actually deliver on those levels of performance, autonomy, and safety. And the less transparent the process is, the more likely it is that there could be abuse of the system, that what you see isn't necessarily what you get. And in fact, there may be, especially considering that safety is such a big deal in an autonomous vehicle, that there could be exposure to unsafe drive conditions. And of course, nobody wants that. And so, yeah, I think this is a siren call for regulatory agencies everywhere, including in Canada, to really start to figure out, what questions should you be asking these tech companies to ensure that their back-end processes are as safe as they can possibly be, because right now there are more questions than answers based on what we heard at this congressional hearing.
Look, Waymo has really cracked autonomous driving better than Tesla, better than the competitors. When a tech company is able to provide a product and it's like so much better than the competitors are scratching their head, but there's a chance it could be faked. I'm always scratching my head. Now, I would never accuse Waymo of faking anything for our legal department, but this is so funny to me, and it's such a wild thing. And the fact that it just slipped out in a congressional hearing and it wasn't in any of the literature that the company put out is another thing that's completely shocking to me.
They said the quiet part out loud, and now a lot of people are asking questions and asking for answers. And I think that's reasonable. And I would like to think that regulatory agencies, both in the US and Canada, start to dig a little bit deeper, because if we're going to have autonomous vehicles on the roads, we need answers like that, and we cannot have this level of opaque operation.
I'm also worried that I was in a Waymo a few weeks ago. I'm also worried that these data center workers or whatever who may or may not be involved with the car, did they catch me picking my nose? Isn't that the great joy of getting in one of these things? You can get in the back and pick your nose, and no driver is going to see you through the rear view window.
But the cameras certainly will. And be careful there, because we know that information is being stored somewhere. We don't know where.
Okay, we have just a few moments here. How bad have deepfakes gotten? Like, if I'm likely to scroll through the internet, like what are the odds these days if I'm just doom scrolling, going through a random news site that isn't highly reputable, or in some cases is highly reputable? How likely am I to see a deepfake these days?
Funny you should ask. Very. So there's something, it comes from MIT. It's called the AI Incident Database. And what they're warning is that just over the last year alone, AI deepfakes have gotten so much better. And there's growing evidence that they're being used in significantly more scams. So impersonation for profit, so they're deep faking elected leaders, celebrities, even doctors promoting skin creams, things like that. And people are being bilked out of, not just small amounts of money, but significant amounts of money. And the technology is so good that you used to be able to say, oh, that's just a terrible video, right? The lips don't align with the syncing between the audio and the video. It's clear that it's a scam. This is a deep fake. Well, it's getting harder and harder to tell, and we're at the point now that if you see, for example, Elon Musk hawking cryptocurrency, it looks very much like Elon Musk, and a lot of people are being taken in many cases for hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars.
Great. That's great news. I'm so happy to hear that. The internet's fantastic.
We're doomed.
The internet sucks these days, man. I long for the days of dial-up, where you'd wait 5 minutes for one image to load.
I miss my AOL account. I truly do.
Carmi Levy, he's a tech analyst. He joins us every week for It's Time for Technology Time. Carmi, it's been a joy having you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate being here. Thanks so much, David.
Monster Energy. Everybody knows White Monster Zero Ultra. That's the OG. It kicked off this whole zero sugar energy drink thing. But Ultra is a whole lineup now. You've got Strawberry Dreams, Blue Hawaiian, Sunrise, and Vice Guava. And they all bring the Monster Energy punch. So if you've been living in the white can, branch out. Ultra's got a flavor for every vibe. And every single one is zero sugar. Tap the banner to learn more.